Welcome to the Gifts from the Edge podcast, where you are about to meet parents and professionals, educators and entrepreneurs who have taken the path less traveled, and by doing that, have made all the difference. Now it's time to step out of the ordinary. Here's your host, Andrew Lord.
Hello my friends, and welcome back to The Edge, and I am so excited. If I'm being super honest, my head is spinning about who I'm just about to introduce. He's the co-founder and managing director of Thank You, which is a future-making, groundbreaking, risk-taking, new paradigm-shaping, literally life-giving company that exists for one simple purpose, and that is to end global poverty. And in the course of their 16-year history, which has been full of twists and turns and heartbreak moments and almost defeats, as well as incredible wins and breakthroughs, they have given well over $18 million to poverty breaking initiatives. And so I am super excited to be introducing Daniel Flynn. Daniel, this is an honor and a privilege for me. Thank you so much for being here and sharing some time with us here on The Edge.
Andrew, thank you for the very kind introduction and the incredible passion, man. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, cool. Now, that mission statement to end global poverty might sort of roll off the tongue, but it's obviously a jaw-droppingly audacious goal. And I think when people hear that, they have kind of two different reactions. One reaction might be fear, which I think provokes like a response like, nah, it can't be done. You know, they sort of take that position of can't be done because they sort of want to give themselves some sense of security of knowing that they're standing on solid ground. But then there's that other reaction, that what if reaction. There's, oh, what if that could be done? And, you know, having read your book, that's a mantra that you've lived your life by, right? So can you tell us a little bit about the goal and, you know, what keeps you moving forward towards that goal?
I love that we're starting here because this is the heartbeat of Thank You. And this, vision of a world where not one person lives in extreme poverty, this isn't just our vision. This is a shared vision by many, many people, many, many organizations, some who've gone before us, many who we walk alongside now. And so I think it's important to note that this is a collective vision. And at Thank You, we think there's a really mission critical part we bring or piece to the puzzle. One of our statements we've thrown around over the years is empowering consumers to choose a world without poverty. Now, the world without poverty bit sounds really lofty, like how on earth? But what's easily missed is consumers, because collectively we are spending $63 trillion on consumer product, which is just this insane number. And we've gone, well, hang on. How easy is it to wonder, could the billionaires solve the world's problems? And some of them are working on it. But I don't think I've ever considered myself as part of the collective trillionaire. And so at Thank You, we live in a space of creating consumer product that will literally take the money you and I are already spending, combine the little, together it becomes much. And you said $18 million has been raised, and it's a huge honor to be part of that. But it feels like a drop in the ocean of what is to come. But for humanity and for the moral compass that we are aiming towards, we don't feel comfortable with any statement less than a world where extreme poverty doesn't exist. So it's a high bar, and we may spend our lives pursuing it, and that's okay. But we will. I think, interestingly, I'm taking too long here, but there's an amazing stat of hope. In the 90s, over 2 billion people were living in extreme poverty. Right. Today it's 716 million people. Back in the 70s, it was over 3 billion. And so we see this increase, or better put, a decrease to that number, that we are seeing giant drops in the end of extreme poverty. So even though everyone hears about it and it feels like it will never go away, it is going away. It is possible. We just got to close the gap.
So it is happening. That's so encouraging to hear that, because like you said, it's just easy to think that it's there forever. So that's such a encouraging stat. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I want to pick up on something that you said there, about being part of the collective. right? Because I'm fascinated by leadership, and you are obviously the leader of a company. And I think when a lot of people think of leadership, they think of a driver, you know, the one-man show who holds it all together, makes everything happen. But in your book, and, you know, just then in that statement, you talk about the thousands of people who are partnered with you along the way. And can you just tell us a little bit about your philosophy of leadership, how you approach that?
Yeah, look, it's a big topic, leadership. I mean, there's a few favorite sayings that have stuck with me. One being leadership is just learning in front of more people. And so I would say that at the foundation of this idea of leading, it's also this idea of learning. It's being humble and it's being willing to learn. I think one of the core roles a leader plays is to cast a vision of a world that is, or you know, a future state. And their role is to cast that vision, and then with the support of many, help curate a plan to get there. And when the going gets tough, I think great leaders are absolutely out in front when it comes to sacrifice, and when it comes to, you know, if there's a battle, you know, they're not hanging back calling shots, they're in it. Leadership is about serving and serving others, not being served. And there's some great pictures of it. I'm sure we've all seen them float around social media of, you know, boss versus leader, you know, and a boss can kind of lord their position over someone, whereas a true leader, they're there to serve and to, yeah, help see a mission realized.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's great. Just in case, you know, if you're just tuning in to listen to this, we're speaking with Daniel Flynn from Thank You. Now, Daniel, it'd be great if you could kind of just outline the business model, just in case we've got people listening here who don't know the background of Thank You. Maybe you even want to go back into history a little bit, talk about Thank You Water, why that stopped, how it's transitioned. But yeah, just set the scene for us. It'd be great.
Cool. Well, look, I think we are a social enterprise that sells consumer product. Originally, water, which I'll touch on in a minute, was our first product, but now over 70 products across hand wash and body wash, cleaners, deodorants, all under the brand Thank You. And we exist 100% to help end extreme poverty. The business is owned 100% by our charitable trust, so founders don't get shares or equity, and there are no investors. And this is a reimagining, I suppose, of consumerism. For me, it started, I mean, at 19 years old, I was in first year uni, had a completely different trajectory planned for my life. And I remember this moment, which became one of the many genesis moments of Thank You. I was sitting in front of my computer, similar to how I am right now, but I just finished watching videos of kids who didn't have access to clean water. Now, they talked about brothers and sisters dying from waterborne disease, and it is very moving, but I found myself in this one moment with tears streaming down my face. And I'm crying because I'm thinking, well, if that story was me, then my sisters, Jess and Mel, they would have died. And I would have grown up as their brother, learning it was the water that I was collecting that killed him. Now, that isn't my story, but there was 4,500 children who die every day from waterborne disease. And so in me at 19 was this incredible like compassion, and also this feeling of this is so wrong. And then I saw another number that said we spent $50 billion a year on bottled water. And I thought, that is ridiculous. That is the most ridiculous kind of parallel universe, right? At the time, it was 900 million people without clean water. And then you've got 50 billion today, $350 billion spent on bottled water. And so this idea of Thank You was in its early stage, it was a bottle of water. We thought that'd be a great product to teach people. And by great, I mean uncomfortable. Bottled water is silly and it shouldn't exist, but it does. And so we thought, let's reflect back to society this reality that, hey, we do this. We've created this. And if we're going to buy water, it should help get water to people in need. And our dream in our heart was that one day this could be many, many, many products. And today we're sort of, you know, a chapter into that, and we've got big dreams of where this should go.
So good. When I saw you speak at the Luminosity Youth Summit, I don't know if you remember that, but there was a story that you told about divine intervention, and that story that kept you going. And when you told that story, I just so needed to hear that at that time, and which is why I came and spoke to you, you know, just as you were heading off to the airport. I just wanted to let you know what a big difference that made to me. And I think that there's some people listening who would probably really relate to that and really appreciate that story. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. So like any good dream, particularly when you were young or new to something, maybe a little naive, which we absolutely were. And I hope we still are, like in the best of ways. I hope we can keep this childlike thinking. But at the beginning, we thought how hard's it going to be? And then we discovered how hard it is. There was quotes from factories in the hundreds of thousands of dollars just for startup expenses. I mean, we literally mapped out that to get this idea off the ground, we need a couple $100,000, of which any business person I went to, they looked at me blankly like, where are you getting the money? And I would say, well, we're not going to have shareholders because this has to be all for the mission. And the response every time was, there's the end of your story. Like, you have to get an investor to start this thing. And I'm like, no, it can't. It has to be fundamentally different from the model of, you know, traditional capitalism. And that was my kind of conviction. So here I am, 19 years old. I'm thinking, this is crazy. I mean, people who know how this stuff works are saying it's not going to work. I feel like I should be studying uni and like my degree and all this stuff. And then I had this moment where everything felt impossible. I wanted to pack the idea up. And I'm in the back of a room. To paint the picture, it was on a weekend. And for context of this, my parents took me to church as a kid. So I grew up in that environment. And in my teenage years, I went on my own kind of faith journey. And I end up in my later teenage years making a decision myself, my own faith decision. And so here I am, not because my parents dragged me, but because I wanted to be there. I'm in the back of one of these rooms, but I'm not listening to the guy up the front talking. Just probably not good. But I'm in the back having this debate in my head going like, am I meant to do this or not? And then I did this thing that I sort of joke my parents taught me, but they didn't really teach me it like this. But in my head, I was like, okay, dear God, if I'm meant to do the water thing, I need a sign because this is just, it doesn't add up. And I'm at the back of the room. There's no writing on the wall kind of moment, but there's an old book next to me on the ground. I lean down to pick it up. Yeah, this is a Bible. It's written thousands of years ago. And here I am wrestling with, do we start this water idea? I open it, and without flipping the page either way, I look down and I read something I've never read before in a book called Isaiah 41, verse 17. And it says, the poor and needy search for water, yet find none. Their tongues are parched with thirst, but I, Lord God, have heard their cry, and I'll turn the deserts into springs and the valleys into pools. And I'm at the back of the room, jaw to the ground, like looking around like, what? Like, did anyone see that? Like, it felt like the whole room stopped.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the divine moment you're referencing. But for me, it was like, I think I meant to do this water thing. Now, nothing in practically had changed, but there was this sense of great confidence. And from there, we went and pitched to a factory, and he ended up saying he'll back it. And we're like, okay. And then he said, look, I'll make the product. You go and sell it. Pay me the cost of goods when you can, which is like an absolute softball free ride in business. Like it was a miracle. And then we pitched to the largest distributor of beverages in the country. And in the pitch, like not in the follow-up meeting, in the first pitch, the director who backs Red Bull, Lipton Iced Tea, and some of the biggest brands, you know, in the world, he says, I'm in. I like this. I'm going to take 50,000 units from you. How quick can you get it to me? And we tell the story, and it's sort of a joke, but it happened. There was just this awkward silence.
Yeah.
Because he's asking, how quick can you get it? As in, like, he's in. And in the back of our heads, I'm like, we haven't registered the company.
Did you know how quick you could get it to him at that point?
We didn't. I in the effort of attempting to look competent, I said, give us about 3 weeks. And he told me he thought that was very quick. And the factory manager, absolutely lost his mind when I called him. I was like, we got the deal, 50,000, but 3 weeks. And he spoke in fluent French for about a minute. And I'm like, and he's just like, what are you doing to me? You know, and it was so cool. But for me, yeah, there was a moment where absolutely I wasn't moving forward. I'm giving up. This doesn't work. The experts know. And who am I to question that? I don't have the money and the experience. And, you know, we're just a group of friends with a bit of passion. But yeah, that moment was pivotal.
Do you still feel like that now? Like, do you still have moments like that? Because the nature of what you do, you know, you're always pushing ahead. So you're always stepping into new territory. And, you know, this podcast is called Gifts from the Edge, and it's about meeting people like yourself who've gone and done something and then come back with gifts to share. But my sense from talking to you is that it's not like you've stopped. It's not like you've gone, okay, we did the water thing and it was amazing, and now I've got stories to tell the grandkids, and that's awesome. You're still kind of pushing ahead. You're still like pushing against that barrier. So do you still have those moments where you feel, and I guess you've got the experience behind you as a backing, but do you still have those moments where you think, am I meant to be doing this?
So Andrew, I feel like there's this line in vulnerability where if you, and it's always this debate on how close do you let people in, right? Because to be vulnerable, like, oh man, I felt like giving up back in 2008. It's so cool. Felt like giving up in 2017 and 18 when it got tough. Cool. 2020, 2022, 2023. Okay. But at what point do you tell people, right? So, I mean, transparently, you know, as a leader, you know, I lead with conviction, and my heart is to lead with transparency. This is a weekly wrestle, and not because, you know, I feel worried or insecure or unsure of myself. It's just the reality of, if you're pushing forward, if you're pioneering either for something in the world or even for yourself, it is such a wrestle. It is so hard. There were moments literally last week. I mean, it's Monday today, so we're fresh in the week, but moments last week where I'm like, I feel like we are so close to breakthrough in the future of Thank You, a future that, if you've read chapter 1, probably in your mind, you've dreamed of. I wonder if Thank You could ever take a leap that big. Well, we're trying, and we're working on it in the background. In fact, one of the projects has been 4 years in the making. Another one's been 5 years in the making. And some days I'm like, I don't know, are we going to get there? And then on the way there, not only does that project face hurdles and pushback, or, you know, this sort of classic, well, that's never happened before, and so therefore it's not going to happen. You know, you get all these sort of classic lines, and they repeat themselves. But also there's the juggling of, this isn't a project we're about to start. This is live. We've got products stocked in every major retailer in the country. We're currently expanding those products into new markets throughout Asia and Middle East, and that'll happen and sort of launch later this year. Like, the bigger things get, the more live they are, and so therefore the bigger risks, and the more sort of, I mean, the more I find myself climbing the mountain, both metaphorically and physically. But last week, for me, to clear my mind, I get up a mountain, and I was up 3 times last week. Up at 5 in the morning one morning, another time it was school holidays, Jed came with me another morning, and then I had a good couple of hours up there on Thursday, and for me, that is about trying to get clarity on the path forward, trying to just take a step back, because just like anyone listening to this is like, man, I'm really unsure sometimes. It's like, welcome to the human wrestle. And for me, this is a story of faith. Yeah, absolutely. I believe in the vision. I believe it's possible. I believe in that divine moment, and many other divine moments are kind of like, you're on the right path, but man, I've questioned it every second day since, right? And there are data points either way. That, in fact, I could write the business case for Pack Up now. Call to win, 18 million, great job, don't risk it any further, end on a win. And I could write a genuine business case that, Andrew, I feel like you would be like, okay, that's solid. Maybe there is no chapter 2. Maybe it was a metaphor. And then I can write another case, and that's the case I wake up working on every day. And that case is not just the case for chapter 2, but it's the content of chapter 2. It's the thinking in chapter 2. It is the future that we have, the products we have, the categories we're trying to disrupt that I think need disrupting for good, and not just for fun, for a mission that, you know, I hope soon we'll see that 18 million number jump again and again and again and again and again and again. But man, in answer to your question, in all honesty, it is a wrestle. It is, this is the human condition.
Yeah. And I think people hearing that would find that encouraging. You know, they're not alone. You know, there's people like yourself still going through those tough questions, those tough struggles. I've shared on the podcast before how, you know, I have hovered on the edge of breakthrough for, it feels like forever. And yeah, it's just so good to hear you share that. So thank you. I would like to ask you some questions just about, you know, family life. So people listening and the coaching spaces that I work in. So I work in learning, life design, and leadership, those sort of 3 domains. And I loved how you linked leadership and learning there before, because I feel exactly the same way about it. And my clients, you know, and the people listening to this, they're always trying to blend those 3 together. And they're always trying to, you know, I don't really like the word balance, because I think balance sort of implies that it's just one or the other. Most of the time we're trying to look for the win-win. But, you know, how do you do that? How do you manage, you know, you're a dad, you're leading an impactful company, and you've said that you're a learner all at the same time. So how do you manage all of that?
Look, I had a mentor years ago really challenged me on this whole topic. And, you know, I don't think there's too many people, let's say, who are in a similar position of you've got a project that you're passionate about, you got family and things that you're really passionate about. You want to develop and you want to grow and you want to push yourself. I think it would be probably all of our hearts would say, oh yeah, we find a balance, and it's about healthy relationships, and it's about sustainable journeys and leadership. But in practice, if our diary week to week doesn't look like that, it'll never happen. And I had this mentor just challenge me. He's like, Daniel, what does your diary look like? And have you got a date? No, I didn't. Your diary. I'm no. You know, like, you don't need to put in your diary. It's cool, but you put your board meeting in your diary, and you put these other things that you say is important in your diary. And it's interesting. You know, whatever we say yes to, we're saying no to something else at the exact same time. Like at the exact same time. And it's funny because, like, I would never call my wife Justine, who's my wife and co-founder at Thank You, and we've walked this journey for 16 years together. I'd never call her and say, hey, just call her to say no to you and the kids. Just call her to say no. Like, you know, I'm saying yes to this. No. Now we have a process we go through. And I've actually had to get a lot better at process and at saying no. And I found that really hard because I was an absolute yes man. And it came from not a good place. So it turns out, thankful to some amazing people who helped me unpack that over the journey, help me sort of discover some of my human frailty actually is found in this fear of rejection. Not wanting to be rejected by people. And so I'll end up being like a classic yes. But really I'm saying no to a bunch of other stuff, including my health, relationships, faith, the stuff that matters most. So through trial, error, and some really, really sound wisdom, people challenging me, I have got a lot better. And I feel like I'm in, you know, a great place and the best I've been. But I think that this is the wrestle for the rest of our life. It's just you can get better at wrestling if you train. Yeah,
totally relate to what you're saying. Sophia and I, we did some relationship coaching, and we were introduced to a book called Leading with a Limp. Have you ever come across that one?
No, I haven't, but it sounds like I should. It sounds like how I lead.
I think, the basic premise is that, you know, we all have strengths, but we also have weaknesses too, you know, and our strengths, our weaknesses are visible to a lot of other people, but not always visible to ourselves. So you know, when we did that coaching, that book helped me to unpack some of the things that I have tendencies towards as well. So I'll send you the link, and I'll put the link below for everyone listening to check that one out. Dan Allender. It's a great book.
Cool.
All right. I was going to also ask, you know, it'd be amazing to have Justine here as well at the same time. I mean, it's been hard enough to get you and I to connect. So that would be awesome. Maybe one day. But, you know, she's obviously going to be different to you. She's obviously going to have different gifts, talents. You mentioned there she's a co-founder. You know, if she was here, what do you think she would share about Thank You, or what would her different perspective be, do you think? Not just about Thank You, perhaps, but even life in general.
Look, many things. I'm don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think her story is remarkable. She grew up in high school, saving money, so running like fundraisers and little businesses to raise money to go on multiple trips overseas to see poverty firsthand and to help out in some projects. These were her high school years. She also won a business competition in the States with her school, and had this incredible knack and passion for business. And so, like, basically, this is the grown-up version of that. You know, this is like, how do you take, and she had this feeling coming back from Indonesia of like, man, we've got it so remarkably good. How can we use this to help, you know, sort of right this wrong of this inequality gap? So, you know, she is incredibly mission and heart led. She's incredibly, like, talk about someone who has a gift of faith or believing the impossible. Like, man, there's been moments where I talk a little bit in chapter 1 of some of the moments. Like, I remember this one where we were, so we're at home. And it was a massive day at work. We're about to launch into 7-Eleven, and we had this shocking letter come through, probably prompted by a competitor, but, you know, that's speculation. But this letter comes through from a legal firm saying, so not a legal firm, from Consumer Affairs, saying that we didn't have a fundraising license and we had to cease trading, which meant to us, okay, we can't launch in 7-Eleven and they've got product and we're literally about to hit go, but we have to pause everything else, which would kind of end it. Like, we couldn't do that. And I'd be on the phone with these lawyers all day going, how are we here? What's happened? And there was this view that we're 6 weeks at a minimum to resolve this. 6 weeks. It's like, no. Like, we can't, like, this is this can't happen. And I remember that night, I was doing the dishes, and I just remember that fact. And we do share doing the dishes. That just so happens that night I was doing the dishes, and Justine just makes this statement. No, I believe that by tomorrow night, 24 hours from now, this is going to be a complete turnaround. And part of me was like, no. Well, I've been on the phone, and I know it's not going to happen. But I was also kind of inspired by her faith, her kind of, okay. And so the next day I called someone else, and another lawyer ended up having a completely different take. And to the point that after some further advice, ended up saying, nope, you're clear to move ahead for launch. We're going to dispute this with Consumer Affairs. We think they're wrong, which I was like, that's pretty amazing. That turned out to be true. So 24 hours later, the next night, there we are in the kitchen. Amazing trend. I'm doing the dishes again, right? So 2 nights in a row, right? And I was just, we had this moment of like 24 hours later. Wow, resolved. So in that, there is, like, we help each other and have helped each other, you know, and I think that's what, you know, in founding is about. It's about helping. It's about bringing your skills, your talent, your encouragement, and kind of co-laboring, like co-finding a way forward. And look, she is, you know, incredibly creative, has a really strategic mind, has spotted a lot of gaps in terms of, like, literal product gaps and market gaps that have added just phenomenal profit and value to Thank You. We've, it's been a beautiful dance. We overlap in heaps of ways. We're actually not opposites. So I know sometimes opposites kind of get married. We've got a lot of similarities, but it has allowed us to tackle many different things at once. So thank you.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I will pursue an interview with her in the future. I'll see if I can nail that down. Tell us about Chapter Zero. What brought that about? I run a business startup course, and it's talk about an inside out model of doing business called Passion to Profit. And so when I read Chapter Zero, I thought this is golden stuff. Can you tell us a bit more about where that came from?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, Chapter Zero is the book I never thought we'd write. After the launch of Chapter One, and for those who, unlike Andrew, haven't listened to the audiobook and read the book and given the book away, like the book when it launched went wild. In the first 2 hours, we raised $360,000. In the first 28 days, we'd sold 55,000 copies, and we'd been our own expectations had been managed by some industry people who said 5,000 books is a bestseller. You will be lucky to ever hit that. So here we are, a couple of weeks in at 55,000. Wow. Now over 150,000 copies sold, and we sold the book at a pay what you want price as this sort of cool social experiment. You push the boundaries, not just online but in retailers, and so the retail bookstores were blown away at it. In fact, we were second to the Harry Potter launch week, and we raised now over $2.6 million from it. And the book, it didn't just raise money; it opened doors. Like when people read Chapter 2, it is going to be very, very surprising. It'll sound a little name droppy, but it's because people gave the book to people who gave the book to people. And Justine and I found ourselves in these dinners in Hollywood with actors and people and business. We found ourselves presenting to tens of thousands of people in a room at the same time. And like, as we spoke, it was translated into 10 languages. And it was just like this most...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I don't want to give too much away other than to say it's an exciting story of what happened the day we launched that book. But something interesting also happened. And this is the bit I didn't see coming. Most people who read Chapter 1 reflect that they cannot believe how low the lows got. They just got low. We got smashed again and again and again. And then we got these moments of breakthrough. Now, I naively thought, man, Chapter 2 is going to be probably not as good a book because the success of Chapter 1, I mean, this thank you is going to go from strength to strength to strength. Boy, did I have something coming. It turns out, and I don't say this in clickbait, but if you read Chapter 1 and you thought, wow, that got low, that was like kindergarten compared to what came next. And, and I think this is hard to explain in a short podcast, but I will do my best, because what happened was the story split in two. Yes, we were in these rooms speaking about thank you. We had, one of our heroes, Seth Godin, who's written 19 best-selling marketing books. He bought Chapter 1. He bought a week 3 of the campaign. I wrote fan mail to him. I asked if we could meet with him. He wrote back on an email saying yes. We went to his house. We caught up with him 3 times since, talking about how to get thank you to the world. And so in one sense, you've got like these wild things happening. There was an interview with a certain President Obama who heard about the whole thing, and I found myself in a 23-minute interview in Chicago, and he's the interviewer. He's interviewing me about thank you, and I gave him Chapter 1. I gave him a hand wash. He said, the girls and I will wash our hands. This will be great. I loved that. And so in one sense, and in fact, the question he asked at the end sums it up. Is that, Daniel, markets are global now. How are you thinking about getting thank you to the world? The truth was, it's all we're thinking about since 2008. How do we get this idea, these products, to the world? And at the end of Chapter 1, I thought, man, we're so close. We're so close. What people don't know, but what you'll learn in the next book, is that we launched Chapter 1 in 2016, but it was in 2011 we were offered our first global opportunity to expand our water product throughout a retailer globally. They had over 10,000 stores in the US. They had tens of thousands worldwide. And we said, no, thank you is not a bottle of water. It's bigger than that. We need time to get ourselves ready. And so we did, but it took us from 2011 to 2013 to get ourselves ready. Then we launched the personal care range, the food range, and then we thought we're ready, but we weren't ready because it was so hard. And you read in chapter 1, like, wow, getting the supermarkets was cool, but that was when the work started. So come 2016, we're thinking now thank you's going to the world, and then we get the money we raised from chapter 1. We put 600,000 into the launch of the baby category nappies, which we thought would be a breakthrough product globally. And we got $600,000 into the New Zealand launch, our first test country. And we all hoped, New Zealand's a test, yeah, but it's a short test. It won't take long. And if you're wondering why would you test in New Zealand, well, it's actually because a lot of brands do. So Pokemon Go rolled out first in New Zealand. MasterCard, Amex, Google, heaps of like really big companies test in New Zealand. So we went there to be like, hey, we'll test too. And here begins the valley. 4 years of our life. 4 years of our life in the battle of our lives. First, we launched into the nappy category, and you know some of this story, but we got 10% market share in the first 3 months, which was phenomenal. It doubled our business. It blew up. Like, it was so exciting. But then the biggest brands, it sent a message. Thank you, serious. And for the first time, we launched a category not over the space of a few years, but a few moments. We'd gained huge share, and then we saw the biggest brand in the country double their promo from 17 weeks a year to 33 weeks. They went half price. The number 2 brand followed. And for the next 2 years in this price war battle, we got drowned out. Mid-battle, we made a decision to drop our food range so that we could focus on the nappy range, but then we lost the nappy wars. Then we're like, well, this is just it's an anomaly. Surely this is an anomaly. We've had such a good past, and then we launched into New Zealand. Our best 13-week launch to date. This is exactly how we needed to be. Meanwhile, we're overseas talking about thank you coming to the world. We've got retailers saying, come on, is it coming? We're like, yeah, we're just ironing out the kinks. And then our New Zealand launch starts crumbling. You could map it over the baby launch. The data was almost identical. The biggest brands, the local brands, they start just throwing everything at it. And at a conference, I bumped into the CEO of one of the biggest competitors and biggest companies in the world. And I made a joke. I said, it's getting a bit harder to launch these days. And he smiled and he said, well, Daniel, when you guys first started, I don't think anyone took it seriously. And I think everyone has great respect for what you guys do. Thank you. But you take market share now. You get loyalty. So anytime you pop up, everyone's going to be ready and they're going to do what brands do. And he wasn't saying anything harsh. It was just a truth statement. But in that truth statement and in that competition, here I am going, we're so close at getting thank you to the world, but we can't even get it to sustain in New Zealand. And this became our crushing 2017, 2018. By end of 2018, Justine and I I'm on the edge of burnout. She's burnt out in bed, 3 months off. We were cooked. We'd spent now 10 years of our life trying to get this thing going. It's 2018, but in 2011, we were offered international deals and we thought we're being responsible turning them down. Now in 2018, this thing's come crashing down and I'm facing this weight of but chapter 1 was so good. And everyone's like, when's chapter 2 coming? I'm thinking, will there be a chapter 2? It's a chapter 0. Back to your early question, became the book I never thought we'd write.
Yeah.
And it's a book about foundations. It's a book about going backwards to go forwards. And really, in essence, if you think about the analogy of a bow and arrow, a well-trained arrow knows that it needs to first go backwards to be shot and propelled forwards. And so we went backwards, we wrote backwards, and we wrote a book. And this book isn't for everyone, although anyone and everyone's welcome to read it. Chapter 1 was sold at a pay what you want price. Chapter 0 is a book that can never be sold. It can only be given. And we give a physical copy to every team member and every partner because we want them to know what are our values, what are our foundations, and what are the secrets we need to make this idea go further. And then we actually make a digital version available to anyone like Andrew, yourself. Anyone can jump online and get about 85% of the content We're happy just to share that. You just digest it. If it's helpful for you, it helped us. And this book became our foundation that we are building chapter 2 on. And I dropped the word partner because one of the great challenges, and there's many, but one of the great challenges we faced was we were split. Our thinking and our time was split between a food and a water business and a nappy business and a personal care business and then in New Zealand. And then we wanted to be in 10 countries and 50 countries and 100 countries. And we were trying to be good at everything. And we were suddenly realizing we were getting outdone by others who are really good at what they do. And so we reimagined the thank you from the inside out, from how we structured the team. We went from an in-house team of 60 down to 15, which is so backwards. But we went backwards because while we went down to 15 internally, our old team of 60 was actually, in our minds, going to hundreds as we expand globally. 15 was the design of our kind of global team as we went to a highly integrated partner-based model, where we found people who specialize in, say, distribution or sales in their country, or specialize in innovation in their category. And so instead of creating this sort of mega structure where we do it all ourselves, we created this like decentralized model and this partnership-based model. And I thought, the profit won't be there. But actually, as we mapped it out, we could see how it's more profitable for Thank You. And whilst it may take a lot to explain, that book, Chapter 0, is like a compass. It's a compass not just to me, it's a compass to all of our partners. We've now got over 50 partnerships from design firms that we're highly integrated with, who, in fact, they brought the text of Chapter 1, Chapter 0 that we wrote. They brought that to life. And historically, we did all design in-house. Ryan and the team at Marks, they took this on and we're highly integrated with them now. And Chapter 0 ended up winning the best awards for best, won gold at the best awards for best business, some category that's like a super prestigious, hard to win category. But Ryan and their team brought their best life's work, and they wake up every day just thinking about design. And so we've empowered them to do that bit, and we get to wake up every day thinking about what we're best at, which we put down to kind of these 5 things which we outlined in Chapter 0. But let me stop there, Andrew. That's where Chapter 0 came from, a deep place.
Wow. No, that's unbelievable. And you said earlier, I just loved everything that you just said then, except for one little part, which was that Chapter 0 is not for everyone. In my mind, I think everyone should get their hands on a copy of Chapter 0. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you're in the space where you're wanting to take other people's experience and learn from that and build on that. And, you know, if you do coaching with me, that's where we start. We start with identity. We start with who you are on the inside, what you're called to do, and everything else builds out and flows from that. And I think that's what Chapter 0 is in a nutshell, isn't it? It's knowing who you are so that you can go ahead and have a compass, like you said, you know, do the things that you're called to do. I think it's absolutely amazing. I've had like goosebumps all the way through this interview. I hope everyone listening feels the same way. I would love to encourage people listening to get behind Thank You. There's a bunch of ways that you can do it. You can obviously go out and buy the products, find the products, buy the products. But what else? You know, what can people do? How can people become partners with Thank You in this amazing mission that you are all about?
Andrew, that's a cool question. I mean, we've got this dream that if Thank You was a person, they'd be helpful as well as willing to ask for help. And hearing that you use Chapter 0 to help people on their journey, that warms my heart, man, because I'm like, that's the helpful we want to be. Not because we're great teachers, just because anything we've learned, man, if it can. But I think learning has a branding issue. It sounds boring. If we change the language to time travel, hey, we've got a lecture on time travel. Everyone would be there. Everyone's like,
Yes.
I've read the time travel, right? So if there's anything we can get that could fast forward someone's journey, or, you know, great. So we want to be helpful, and at the same time we need help, because actually at the end of the day, this is an idea with all odds stacked against it. It doesn't have the money, the resource, the sort of the power to really flip the system. But if consumers join us, and enough people do, that's the flip of the system. And visually, I know you can't see me, but just imagine a triangle. This is a little bit Illuminati for a moment, but imagine a triangle and imagine the very pointy top of it, and imagine this as the long base. I think for too long we've gone to change the world or anything. It's the pointy end. It's the people at the top. Well, this is a story of what happens when the group at the bottom say, no, we're in for a different. And so that's where our greatest campaigns is the group at the bottom going, oh yeah, we'll post, or a book, yeah, that funds the future of the organization, we'll buy it, millions of dollars. I mean, we had philanthropists saying to us, no, we wouldn't fund this, it's too high risk and there's no certainty. You know what? Everyday people, not million or billionaires, but everyday people bought the book and millions have helped us go further. And the whole idea of thank you works when consumers get on board. So I would say this, buy the product, don't underestimate that, but tell people. When we share stuff online, it's so hard these days to cut through the algorithm with a lot of money, without a lot of money. So help us share, help us get the word out. And then from time to time, there's a big ask, usually every 2 years. I don't want to necessarily give dates, Andrew, but early next year, we're working our butts off for what will be kind of me like picking up the phone to you and anyone listening in the world to say, hey, this is how far we've come. But we spotted something, and for 4 years we worked on it, and the only way we could flip a system for good is if enough people joined us. And so on that day, my hope is that people take up arms and help us. So from time to time, there may be a big ask. Day to day, we just want to work in and integrate with your life, bring you the best cleaner, deodorant, hand wash possible. And the coolest part is it's not to build a brand. Going back to the very beginning of this, is to see the end of extreme poverty. If you go to thankyou.co, you can meet our change makers. Man, we back some of the most inspiring and innovative organizations. Like work with like Deep Rise, an African Visionary Fund. They back local change makers. So when we started, someone wrote a check for 20 grand as a gift. That helped. Once we landed that deal at NBC, that helped us start Deep Rise, write $20,000 grants to African and people growing up in Southeast Asia, like change makers who want to make a change and they've got a business idea or a social enterprise. And so we back them, they back them. We work with big groups like, IJM, who are working to, end modern day slavery through massive system change initiatives. And there's over 18 different partnerships in the last 3-4 years. Have a read, see the difference that people are making to the ultra poor, those living in extreme poverty. In fact, the more I read their stories, the more hope I have. And actually, sometimes I realize we do not have the hard job. We do not have the hard job, but we'll do our bit. And together see the vision reality.
Yeah, I love how you are partnering with people who are already on the ground, who already do really good work in that space. That's just another part of the key to your success. We could go right into that as well, which is awesome, but we have run out of time for today. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm going to put some links below. I encourage you to get your hands on chapter 0, go through it. It will change your perspective. At least you will get a better understanding of what thank you does, but at best, I think you'll understand a little bit more about how you should structure your own life, with a clear foundation and a clear vision to leave a legacy. And I think it's a powerful resource for that. Daniel, thank you so much. It's been awesome chatting with you again.
Thanks. Thank you, Andrew. So great to chat.
And there you have it. We're on a roll, aren't we? Last episode with Nadine Champion and today with Daniel Flynn from Thank You. This is a company that is literally changing the world with the work that they do. And, during the interview, he's talking about meeting people like Seth Godin and Barack Obama. And he's probably, getting a bit starstruck at those moments. But I'm thinking in my head, I feel that way about you. This guy is an absolute legend. He's a guy I've admired for a long, long time. And I just so resonate with what they're doing. They enable other people to give and contribute just by doing something that they already do. It's amazing. And thank you gives us the opportunity to do that. And so I'm going to put some links just below where you're listening to this podcast. Please take some action on this. I'd love for you to go and download chapter 1. Listen to it. It's one of the best books that I've ever come across. Listen to it or read it. If you get the physical version, it is a very cool book. You'll find out more if you pick it up about that. You can also get chapter 0. As Daniel said, it's a free book. It can never be bought. But what that does is not only gets you, some powerful insights into how to lay a foundation and how they have laid their foundation, but it'll also get you on their launch team list. So when they're doing their next amazing thing, like launching chapter 2, you're going to be the first to know about it. So make sure you go and do that. And the other thing that Daniel suggested, which I think is a great idea, is to share, make sure you're following them on social media and share some of their posts. In the week between when I had this interview and when I released it, there was a shocking but hilarious social post that's got Daniel in it. It's quite funny, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to link to it. You can go check that out, and as Daniel said, share that around with your friends. I'm sure they'll enjoy it too. Thank you so much for joining me once again on the podcast. Hope this has been really helpful for you. Hope you're also having a wonderful week. And if you need to reach out to have a chat about how you can take your business, your family life, your learning to the next level, reach out, book a call with me. I'd love to have a chat and help you in any way that I can. That's all from me for today. Bye for now.